Welcome to the presentation of a lecture from Gnostic Radio, a free public service from the Gnostic tradition of Samael Aun Weor. Gnosis is the root wisdom of all the world's great religions. Gnosis is a universal teaching of practical science, whose goal is absolute liberation from suffering and the complete development of the human being. This lecture is one of hundreds available as free downloads, podcasts, or transcriptions. Our lectures range in topic and complexity in order to address the many needs of humanity. We invite you to browse our library of lectures to find teachings that suit you. Each Saturday, Gnostic Radio broadcasts live and includes a free online classroom allowing listeners to see images, read related scriptures, and ask questions of the speaker. To learn how to participate, visit gnosticradio.org. Gnostic Radio is a service of Glorian Publishing, a non-profit organization. The lectures and radio broadcast have been made possible by the financial support of listeners like you. Most spiritual schools recommend a donation of $10 to $20 per lecture. To make a donation, visit gnosticradio.org. Now, with heartfelt wishes for the end of suffering for all creatures, we begin the lecture. May all beings be happy.
Good morning. This is our fifth lecture for our Healthy Spirituality series. So if you haven't listened to the lectures before, I encourage you to go and download on gnosticradio.org. You'll find the previous four lectures, which actually focused on what we eat, right? The best foods that we possibly can eat. So the first four lectures were really focusing on the what. What is best for our body. And today we're going to talk more about, and we also spoke about actually why we should eat well. And the reason why we should eat well is because in order to do this work, in order to elevate our consciousness, in order to be able to resist all these temptations in this world and all of this negativity, we have to have a great vehicle, right? And this vehicle is called our body. So the reason we're doing this Healthy Spirituality series is because so many people say, well, what should I eat? How much should I eat? How should I eat? So we're doing this so that we can help you to have the healthiest possible vehicle so that you can do all the other wonderful spiritual things you're learning about in the school. Okay? So today we're really going to focus on the how much we should eat question, which, that's a big one for a lot of us, how much. The how we should eat. So the how much and the how. And we're going to delve more into that so that we can truly take advantage of the food that we are eating and make it the best for our bodies. Okay? So, portions. If you look at slide 3, you're going to see a humongous burger, probably the biggest burger I've ever seen. And we're going to start talking about portions. Now, as you know, portions have just been increasing, right? They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The slices, the helpings, the amounts that we have, that we are eating, that we are served at restaurants, has grown over the past 2 decades enormously. So, what was normal to get served at a restaurant 20 years ago would now seem like, oh, that's so little, for us, because we're so used to getting these huge size portions. So the bigger is better motto is really pervasive in the food industry now, right? Bigger is better, buy in bulk, get more for your money. So people feel like they get a great deal if they get a lot of food on their plate, right? You go to a buffet, wow, it's all you can eat. Well, I have to eat more because I'm paying for it. So you eat more, right? So it's like this mentality of like, I got to get my money's worth and I've got to stuff myself and then I'm satisfied. So that's what's really going on in the food industry these days. They're convincing us to buy bigger, buy more to save money. Okay, so Supermarkets, restaurants, they promise better value and they push more food onto the customer. But remember, if they're pushing more food onto the customer and they're still making money, what kind of food are they pushing onto us? That's the question you got to keep in mind. What's the quality of the food they're giving us? If they're able to give us so much of this food, what is the quality of this food? Okay. So the interesting thing about this is bigger portions mean that we tend to eat more. If a larger portion is placed in front of us, we tend to eat 30 to 50% more than we would have if it wasn't in front of us. 30 to 50% more. So keep that in mind the next time you have this big plate of food in front of you. Because if it's there, we tend to pick at it. Even if we're full, do you notice what you do? Oh, let me just have one more fry. Oh, let me have one more bite. And one more bite leads to another bite, which then turns into overeating. Okay? So we don't even realize that we're overeating because it's just right in front of us. So a good trick to do is to serve yourself less, right in front of you. Because if it's in front of you, we'll tend to eat it. So if you look at slide 4, you'll see what has happened. It's called portion distortion, right? Look at the size of these sandwiches being served at these delis. Do you ever order like a deli sandwich? And the sandwich is like, you can hardly hold it because of the amount of meat they're putting on it. So typical pastrami sandwich or a corned beef sandwich that you could get, especially at a New York deli. New York delis, you're going to get a sandwich that looks pretty close to this. Does that look normal to you? No, right? I mean, that's enough meat to probably serve all of us here, right? Because realistically, how much does a sandwich need? It doesn't need all that. Usually when I buy a sandwich at a deli, I wind up taking half of it off because it's just too much. So this is what's happening. Look at that sloppy Joe in the middle. That just, sloppy, that doesn't even, I don't know. But even the bowls of cereal that kids are consuming, right? The bowls are getting bigger or they're serving themselves more. But really, what is that? That's like a cup of sugar. If you look at that type of cereal, that's just pure sugar. So, the reason they're still hungry is because it's not feeding their bodies, right? So portion distortion, everything is just becoming bigger. The plates are bigger too. Do you see the size of the plates that you get at a restaurant? They're huge. So everything is just this bigger, and we think it's better because it's bigger, but it really isn't. So on slide 5, you'll get to see what a portion looked like 20 years ago. So on the left, you see what a burger looked like 20 years ago. That was 333 calories. Okay? Looks like a normal burger, right? It probably looks like a fast food, what you call a regular hamburger. And on the right, you see what we're used to today. And who knows how many calories that is. I'm not sure even how much that would calculate. But, most of the popular burger restaurants have increased their size tremendously. The original burger weighed 3.9 ounces, and a burger today weighs about 12.6 ounces in meat, I'm talking about. So 3.9 ounces of meat was the original, and about 12.6 ounces of meat there is on the kind that we would get today. The original McDonald's patty was 1.6 ounces of meat. 1.6 ounces, that's it. So that was like a sliver of meat, and today a quarter pounder is 8 ounces of meat. So that's a big difference, huge difference. And that's, 5 times more meat than originally they had. If we look at popcorn, you get at the movies, a normal popcorn 20 years ago was about 5 cups, about 270 calories. Now you go to the movies, what are you getting? You're getting the tub. Okay? The tub is about 630 calories now. So we went, we're tripling the size and the amount. And then, of course, there's the butter, right? So we've got to put the extra butter on. So, what would have before satisfied our popcorn craving now needs to be, triple the size. Pizza. So 2 slices of pizza 20 years ago looked like that. Okay, and it was about 500 calories. Now 2 slices of pizza are way bigger, and they're about 850 calories. Actually, in the 1970s, pizza pies were typically 10 inches in diameter. And now the typical pizza is 16 to 18 inches in diameter. So that's almost doubling the size of the pizzas out there. Okay, favorite topic for this classroom, bagels. Okay, a bagel. Take a look at the 3-inch bagel, okay? That's like the little bagels. You know the bagels they sell at like the supermarkets, the bag of bagels? That's like what a normal little bagel used to be like, right? 3-inch bagel, 140 calories, not so bad. But now we go to the bagel stores, the bakeries, and they're selling bagels that are double that size, the 6-inch, you know, which then is 350 calories. So really, you know, do we need that whole bagel? We need to ask ourselves. Probably not, because again, we're just eating, you know, the ego of gluttony comes into the picture, right? Not so much hunger, but gluttony. So if we take a look at hamburgers that are served today, you know, a small hamburger at a typical fast food restaurant would be about 250 calories, medium burger about 410, and then the large burger would be about 540, okay? So, you know, all these restaurants, fast food restaurants are offering these bigger sizes, but realistically, what our body actually needs is probably that small hamburger. Same with French fries. You know, you got to get the order of fries if you're getting the burger, right? So that small order of fries is about 230 calories, the medium 380, and the large is 500. Okay? So just remember, every bite is just adding more and more into your body. Same with the sodas. Well, if you have a burger and you have fries, well, you got to get the soda, right? So the soda, small soda 150, medium 210, large 310. So now just with that one meal, you're getting almost as many calories as you need for your day just with one meal. Okay? So if you look at slide 12, this is really interesting, I thought. They show a comparison of what a burger looked like in 1955, what French fries looked like in 1955, and what soda looked like in 1955, the average amounts. So a burger had 1.6 ounces of meat, French fries had 2.4 ounces of fries, and a soda was 7 ounces. Doesn't the soda look ridiculously little compared to what we're getting today? Right? I mean, now we're used to, you know, these super sizes, these big sizes. So today you can get anywhere from, you know, 1.6 ounces to 8 ounces of a burger. And this is 2002 sizes. So this is, you know, 9 years ago. So the sizes have probably increased since then even. But the same thing with the fries. Fries have gone up even to 7.1 ounces and sodas to 42 ounces. That's a huge difference. So in a really short time span, we have, you know, triple, quadrupled, I don't even know what the next word is, but more amounts of the food. So all of this leads to portion distortion. And, you know, I really love slide 13 because it shows us what we're served. So on the left side, this is what you typically get at a fast food restaurant, right? This would be a typical, oh, let's stop for a bite kind of meal. So you've got your burger, you've got your fries, and you have your ketchup, okay? So that meal alone is 1,345 calories and 53 grams of fat. Now, what one serving is on the right side. So look at what one serving should actually be. It's about, you know, it's a quarter pound of the cheese. It's about half of that regular cheeseburger, more than half of those fries. And you can leave the lettuce, tomato, and pickle because they're not adding much to your, you know, your intake there. And it's half the bread, too. So that's what a normal serving size for a normal sized person should actually be. So what we're actually eating is way more than our body needs, you know, and that's really what we need to start thinking about, you know, is how much does our body need? Now, that need is going to be different for each of us. Some of us have really fast metabolism. Some of us have slow metabolism. Some of us struggle with weight issues. Some of us struggle with not eating well. So this is just one more thing that we need to keep in mind as we're feeding our bodies. Because too much or too little is not going to do our body well. So we've got to figure out what that size is. But did you know that Americans are actually the heaviest people in the developed countries? Yeah, we are. And the U.S. Surgeon General actually calls obesity an epidemic in the United States. It's an epidemic. And I don't know if you've seen, they have these like shows on where they're showing these extremely obese people, and I find it really sad because most of them are actually malnourished. Doesn't that sound sort of ironic that they would be malnourished? You would think that somebody who's overweight or obese would actually be nourished pretty well. They'd have all the nutrients they need because they're eating so much. But actually what they found is that a lot of these people are actually starving to death, meaning they're malnourished. It's because the calories that they are consuming are empty calories and they're not nourishing their bodies. The kinds of foods they're choosing are actually so nutritionally empty that they're not feeding their bodies. So even though they're big, and you look at somebody and you think just because they're overweight or fat, oh, that person must be really, unhealthy, or, it doesn't typically mean, a very obese person obviously has their health issues, but somebody who's overweight doesn't necessarily mean that they're not healthy. They could be healthier than someone who's really thin sometimes because of the foods that they're consuming, so don't let size be the only judge for you, and everybody's got to figure out what their right size is, but the point is, a lot of people are big and they're still not feeding themselves right. A lot of people are small and they're still not feeding themselves right. Okay? It's the quality of the food that we're putting in our mouths. So this is, I thought, was a really interesting fact that with each decade of age, we need 100 fewer calories per day. Each decade. So as you get older, you actually need fewer calories in order to maintain your weight. Okay, so if you're coming up to your next decade, think about that. I know I am. So 10 calories a day or 2 hard candies of unexpended energy actually puts on an extra pound a year. 10 calories only. So if you're just popping 2 hard candies, and you're not doing anything with that energy, you're just sitting at your office and sitting on the computer, 2 extra candies, 10 calories a day, will put on an extra pound of weight every year. So, mindless eating, right? Eating just because we want to put something in our mouth. All of that really adds up. Okay, so who's seen Super Size Me? Oh, okay, a couple people. All right, if you haven't seen it, this is your homework. Okay, because it's a great movie, and this is actually it's called Super Size Me. It's a 2004 documentary film made by Morgan Spurlock. He's an independent filmmaker, and what he did was Morgan had this idea that he's going to eat McDonald's for 30 days straight. Okay, from February 1st to March 2nd, 2003, he did this experiment, and so the film documents his journey of what happened eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Okay, and it shows also the physical, psychological well-being. He goes to the doctor. He does, blood work, checkups in the beginning of the experiment, in the middle, and at the end to see what happens. And he did this because of what the Surgeon General said, calling obesity an epidemic, and knowing that millions and millions of people are served at these restaurants. They love to say that on their sign. And this is what average Americans are eating, at least a few times a week. So he wanted to see what would happen if he did this for 1 month. So let me explain how the experiment worked. So he really put some guidelines on this. He says there's going to be rules to this experiment. So what he did is he said he needed to eat 3 full meals, eat 3 meals at McDonald's per day. Okay, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He had to complete every item on the McDonald's menu at least once during the experiment. Okay, and he actually managed to do that in 9 days. I guess the menu's not that extensive. He must only ingest items that are offered on the McDonald's menu. This includes bottled water, so he couldn't have anything else besides McDonald's. Any outside consumption of food was prohibited, and he must supersize the meal when asked. So you know how they said, would you like that supersized? If they asked him, he had to supersize it, and he had to eat it all. Okay, but he couldn't ask for a supersize amount on his own. Only if he was asked did he supersize. So what he did was he also attempted to walk as much as the typical U.S. citizen, okay, based on the suggested figure of about 5,000 standardized distance steps per day. So that's the average amount an American walks, 5,000 steps a day. If you want to see if you're above average or below average, get a pedometer. See how many steps you're actually walking. New Yorkers actually tend to walk more than the average American. But he tried to stick to this, but he said that he walked more while he was in New York than in Houston. You know, a lot of these places, they drive from place to place. Okay, so this was the experiment. So I'm going to show you the results. The results. Spurlock gained 24.5 pounds that month. A 13% body mass increase. Okay, 24 in 1 month. That was almost a pound a day. His cholesterol went up to 230. He experienced mood swings, sexual dysfunction, and fat accumulation to his liver. The doctor, I remember watching this movie, and the doctor was really concerned about his health. They wanted him to stop the experiment because they were like, your liver is just, it's way out of control, and your body chemistry. I mean, if you keep doing this, we don't know what's going to happen to you. But he said, no, I must continue the experiment. And it took him 14 months to lose the weight that he gained in 30 days. 14 months to lose the weight that he gained in 30 days. It's interesting. His wife actually went to the same school I did, and she's a vegan chef as well. And she was just freaking out because she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're going to be eating this 3 times a day? And she was literally worried for his health. Like she was afraid he was going to have a heart attack and die. And it's just amazing, really, what happened to him. He went from a very energetic, healthy guy, to this sitting on the couch, eating and just oh, I don't feel good. His body really did not function well on this type of food. So if you did not see this movie, Super Size Me, please, it's available online for free. You can watch it online, or rent it. But it's really worth seeing because this is the reality of what, if not for yourself, is true for most people around you. Okay? And, very interesting. After the movie was released, McDonald's actually discontinued the supersize option. They said it had nothing to do with the movie, but it just so happened they discontinued that. So, and they started adding healthier menu options. I just saw a commercial, and they're really trying to make it look snazzy and healthy, and they're serving oatmeal now. So, yeah, I saw that commercial. So, well, good for them. Hopefully more people will start eating better. But the reality is, there are a lot of people eating at these restaurants. And so I always tell people, if you're going to go out to eat, just try to choose the healthiest options available to you. Okay? So on slide 17, I want your opinion. Does this look like a healthy meal?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, besides you, who can probably eat a horse and not gain a pound, does this look like a healthy option? Does it look balanced? Does it look healthy? I know some of you are drooling at the sight, but I'm asking the healthy option. Okay, this is probably not your healthiest option, right? It's a big T-bone steak with French fries, buttered bread, white bread. Okay, so everybody agree this is not probably the healthiest option? Okay, good. Besides you, Matt. Okay. All right, slide 18. How's this looking? Looks good? Much better. Okay, what are you saying? You're saying, no? Yeah, I would happen to, okay, what's the green stuff? That's called vegetables. Those are green beans. All right, well, I will admit this is better than the first picture, but it's still not great. Look at the sizes of the amount of food. Look at the size of that steak. It's huge, okay? And then we've got, the potatoes, yes, we got some vegetables on there, that's good, but it's still not the healthiest option we can do. I know some of you are really saying, yeah, that's great, it's perfect. Okay, what about this slide 19? How's that looking? Closer? Okay, we're getting closer, right? All right, it's getting better. The meat got way smaller, right? The meat got way smaller. And we have nice grilled asparagus. But now there's a lot of potatoes on that plate, right? There's still a lot of starch on our plate. So yes, this is better than the first two options, but it's still not the best. Now take a look at this one. We've got some zucchini, we've got some watercress, we've got sweet potato fries, and we've got a small piece of beef. How's that looking? Okay, that looks good. That's actually your best option because look at the amount of vegetables on your plate. Half of your plate is filled with the vegetables. The meat is not looking like, a side of a cow, right? This was option one, right? We all agree this is not the right, okay? And it's getting smaller, until we got to here. Actually, what your body typically needs, one serving size is the size of your palm. Okay, look at your palm, not your hand, your palm. Palm. Look at, now all of us are going to have a different palm size, right? The bigger we are, we're going to have a bigger palm. That is actually a proper portion size. No two palms, one palm. Don't put two palms together or you'll get this or this, okay? What we're aiming for is, this or this, meat-wise, okay? This is actually a dinner I made last week, okay? And what was funny was, as I was doing this PowerPoint, I couldn't find a healthy meal. I couldn't find a meal that actually had half, plate of vegetables, a small piece of meat, and some carbs. I couldn't find it. So I had to actually take a picture and put on my own meal because that's how hard it was. I was in Google Images and kept going and going and going, and I couldn't find a good option. What does that tell us? That most people are not eating a good option. Many people are eating this and calling this healthy, or this and calling this healthy. Most people, they think potatoes is like a good vegetable. Like that's their vegetable. Potatoes and ketchup are the two most popular vegetables in America. Potato and ketchup. Not even tomatoes, but ketchup. Those are the two most eaten vegetables. Okay? So, like I said, this is getting better. Your best option. You see the plate too? Do you notice how it's not overflowing over the plate? It's actually in the plate size, You see the ridges around the plate? You should be able to see the design. Okay? Do you see like here, you can't see the edges? Here, it's overflowing the edges. We should be able to see the edges. Yeah, no. Okay? So this would be a better option. Okay? Half the plate should be vegetables. If we look at the anatomy of a healthy meal, on slide 21, this is what an anatomy of a healthy meal looks like. Okay? A quarter of your plate should be a good choice carbohydrate. So brown rice, whole wheat pasta, sweet potatoes. Okay? Good option. Another quarter should be protein. Okay? Lean meat, fish, poultry. A quarter of your plate. And the other half, the whole other half of the plate should actually be vegetables. Now, does this sound like a revelation to some people here? Or is this like, oh, I knew that? Surprising? A little? Oh, all of you are such good eaters, so I'm just going to stop the lecture right now. That's it. So all of your plates work out like this more or less on a regular basis? Okay, you all either feeling real guilty right now or you don't want to talk.
I don't think we know it. We just don't practice
it. Thank you. We know it, but we just don't practice it. What she just said is exactly what most of us do. We know it, but we don't practice it. Same with Gnosis. We know it, but we don't practice it. How many of us know about meditation? We know about a lot of things, but we just don't practice it. That's the difference. If we really want to change something about ourselves, we have to practice it, right? You are not going to become a great musician if you never pick up your instrument, right? Everybody agree with that? Yeah. You're not going to become healthier if you never change, if you never experience, if you never practice this. You're not going to become enlightened if you never sit down to meditate. You know, you put it in fabulous words. We know it, but we just don't practice it. Okay, so that's what the whole point of this is. We have to practice what we're learning, or else there's going to be no change. And I know change is hard. Most people, we don't like change. We say we like change, but when it really comes to it, we don't want to change because we're comfortable where we're at. Eating the way we do, shopping the way we do, living the way we do. So change is painful because a lot of egos suffer. What? I can't have my plate of steak and my plate of French fries every day? Like some people would suffer knowing that, right? But it doesn't have to be so dramatic. It could just be starting with little changes. And when I say little changes, if this is what you're eating, on slide 17, switch to this. Add some veggies on it. If this is what you're eating, get to this next slide. If this is what you're eating, get to here. Start where you're at. I'm not telling you to go from, from slide 18 to slide, 20 if this is going to be really painful for you. Just start adding. And the more that we add good stuff, the more we crowd out the other stuff. Okay? So eventually, our goal is to make our meal look like slide 22. Half our plate is vegetables, quarter is grainy starch, grains and products and starchy foods, and the other quarter is meat and alternatives. That could be beans, that could be tofu, that could be, other protein options. Okay? So I thought this was a great little, very basic way of looking at it. And, I love to take photos of my meals. Those of you who are on Facebook with me, you've seen my meals all the time. And I do that because I like to share better options with people. And so every meal, I sit down and I make my plate real nice. And what this does is it makes me mindful as well. So I make a really nice presentation on my plate. My husband, of course, is laughing at me all the time, going, "We can't eat until you take a picture." I said, "That's right." And I put everything, and I make it look nice, and then I take a picture from like 5 different angles. And then, I eat it. I sit down, and I enjoy it. It just makes it one more step of being mindful of my meal, being present with my meal. It just helps me to connect and to feel grateful for my meal. I get this like overwhelming sense of gratitude when I sit down to a wonderful meal. And I say, "Thank you, God, for this meal." Because I know so many people in the world do not have this option. And I really, truly connect and I say, "Thank you," because I know that I'm very fortunate. Some people do not have this option to choose vegetables and grains, and they don't even have food to put on their plate. So we should always keep that in mind and be very grateful. And to be in the situation that we're in, make the most of it. Because we are very, very fortunate. If you look at slide 23, there's a funny cartoon of this American guy, right? You look at his meal too, right? The typical burger, fries. Oh, God, is that burger, fries, and a stuffed potato? I think it is. And then you have the French guy, right, on the right side with his little portions. Look at his portions. He's got his little piece of meat and his little vegetables and his little, potato and his little glass of wine. So it's really funny. And, the Americans calling the French guy a wimp. "You wimp, you look at what you eat," right? Teasing him. But actually, there was a professor of psychology named Dr. Paul Rozin who got interested in what's called the ecology of eating in the United States and France. He really wanted to study the ecology of eating in both countries. And what he did was he compared portion sizes at comparable restaurants in Philadelphia and Paris. So from McDonald's to local Chinese to a local French bistro, but comparable restaurants in both cities. And he and his team of researchers found that the mean American portion was about 25% larger than the French counterpart. Same types of restaurants, and yet they were serving 25% more for the same typical type of meal. So what was even more interesting was that the French spent more time eating that meal. So the Americans, like in the Paris McDonald's, researchers found that customers averaged about 22.2 minutes at the table eating. And at the Philadelphia McDonald's, they averaged about 14.4 minutes. So similar neighborhoods, similar types of foods. The French person had less on their plate and spent more time eating it. So what does that tell us? You know, what does that say? What it says is the French have learned to appreciate more their food, to be more mindful of their food. Have you ever gone to a French restaurant? Aren't you shocked at the portions? You go, right? From a typical American mindset. My husband hates this, you know. They'll serve you like this little thing on the plate and the other little thing and the other little thing. It's all delicious, right? I mean, your senses are like, wow, delicious. But then your other side's going, is that it? I paid how much for that? I could have went to the other restaurant and gotten 3 times that amount, right? So, you know, you're having like this battle inside of you because we're still thinking that more is better, that stuffed is good. Whereas the French really appreciate the quality, not the quantity. They sit down and they actually talk to each other during a meal. They socialize. You know, they take their time. They have many courses. We put everything on a plate and we're like, okay, well, that was good, right? So, yeah. Thank you. So we haven't gotten to the point where we're really appreciative of the quality of the food. And that's really what we can learn from the French, right? And not only the French. There's many cultures that do the same. We need to stop thinking about quantity and start thinking about the quality. You know, during this lecture series, we've spoken about organics, we've spoken about better food options, and always price comes into the picture, right? Oh, but it costs more. Oh, but it, you know, and we're constantly thinking of money. But what we need to ask is, what's worth more, quality or quantity? Now, for some of you, you're going to say, well, it's quantity. And if you're there, that's fine. Just keep trying to add good, better quality stuff into your diet. Some of you are going to say, no, it's quality. So that's what this slide can teach us is, you know, just learning to take more time, being more mindful, being more appreciative of the food that we do have in front of us. So this brings us to slide 24 and mindful eating. So if you look at the graphic on the left, you see this woman who's, you know, eating. She looks like a spider with all these arms, but she's basically just shoving food into her mouth, right? Just eating, eating, eating. Whereas the woman on the right is really appreciating, right? Really being mindful of the food that is set before her. You know, so how are we eating? You know, how are we eating more like the woman on the left? Or are we eating more like the woman on the right? Or maybe we're somewhere in between. You know, to be present when we're eating. We talk about self-remembrance, right? We talk about being conscious during our day. Talk about waking up and not being asleep. How are we when we're eating? Are we practicing those same principles? Are we being mindful of our food? Are we being aware? Are we practicing, you know, the key of soul, subject, object, location? Are we practicing that during our meal? Or are we just shoving food down our mouth and thinking that's just the way it is? You know, I grew up, we always sat down to the table together, but we just ate. You know, it was just like, oh, yum, 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 yum. Okay, good, thanks, all right. And then we go on to the next thing. It wasn't like a leisurely, you know, hanging around talking, hey, how was your, you know, it wasn't like that. We ate to eat. You know, it was eat to survive kind of thing, right? You ate to survive. So ask yourself that too. When you were growing up, what was the food culture in your house? How were meals served? Did you all eat together? Did you all eat separately? Nowadays, a lot of people don't even eat together at the dinner table, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. They have so many different schedules. what did your childhood look like? And what does your present look like? Is it better? Is it a better reflection? Are you doing the same habits? So just think about that, because remember, it takes 20 minutes for your stomach to give the message to your brain that you're full. 20 minutes. So those people who are sitting in the McDonald's at 14.4 minutes, they don't even have time to figure out if they're full or not. So they just keep shoving food down into their mouth. So during a meal, your meal should actually try to take at least 20 minutes. Because by the end of that 20 minutes, when you're done with that plate of food, you still feel hungry, then go and eat. But if you're eating more before that 20 minutes, you have no idea if you're full or not, because your stomach cannot register it yet. It takes 20 minutes for that message to reach your brain. So, how long are you taking to eat? Most of us probably take 5-10 minutes to eat, right? Or am I the only one? Because I struggle with this. This lecture has been great for me developing it, because I am a fast eater, and I admit it. I learned, my family taught me to be fast eaters. The people I work with now are all fast eaters, except for a couple people. So I have to really struggle to put my fork down between bites, to chew my food more times, to not just think of it as something that I just need to do to stay alive. So that's why taking the photos and making my plates nice, that's another way that I'm trying to be mindful. So we're actually going to do a mindful eating experiment right now. So for those of you who are listening online, I want you to grab something edible, preferably healthy and edible right now. So if you're listening online, please go and get something that you're going to be able to put into your mouth and eat. And those of you who are here in the lecture room, you get to look under your chairs, and taped under your chairs, there's a baggie of something. So please look. The back row, you actually find an empty seat and pick, there are empty seats here. Please get a bag of food. Don't open it yet. Back row, please find an empty seat and get the bag. Guys, if you could give the back row a bag. Any empty seat will have a bag underneath. Okay, everybody should have a bag. Doesn't this feel like the Oprah Winfrey show? Look under your seat. You got too many. Okay. All right, so everybody has a bag. Okay, don't eat it yet. You are not allowed to eat yet. Look at you. You're all just shoving it in your mouth. All right, we're going to do a mindful eating experiment. Okay? And if you don't know what this is, even more fabulous, I'll tell you at the end what it is. All right, so, often we eat mindlessly. You're going to follow my directions doing this, okay? So just listen. So, often we're watching TV, we're listening to the radio, we're working, we're driving, we're doing other things besides just eating. And so what we need to do is to really take all of our senses and put them into our eating experience, okay? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to use all of our senses, okay? Sight, smell, physiological reaction, touch, motion and movement, taste, texture, swallow, breathe, and silence. So this is what you're going to do. I'm going to read for you step by step what you're going to do, okay? And I want you to pretend like you're this scientist from another planet, and you just found this food, and you're like, what the heck is this? And some of you might be saying that looking at this food. What the heck is this? Because these are all actually superfoods, and I'll explain to you what superfoods are, but I chose foods that are really great for you, okay? So, I didn't put like junk food on there, okay? So, this is the first thing I want you to do. Look at your food, okay? Pretend like you're this alien, this extraterrestrial from another planet, the scientist. You just arrived here on Earth, you've never seen this food before. Look at it carefully. Don't think about naming it. Just think about it. Look at it. Can you see? We're just looking right now. We're just looking. Look at it and think about it. Can you see the water, the rain, the sunlight within your food? Just look at it. Observe it. Now, bring the food up to your nose. Without naming the scent, Just experience smelling the food. And then describe it in your mind. What does your food smell like? Now focus on what's going on in your mouth as you're smelling it. Begin to notice that saliva is being produced, even though you haven't put the food in your mouth. Notice that your mind-body phenomenon and how the senses respond to the anticipation of food being eaten. Look at what's going on in your mouth. It's like your body's preparing to put this into its mouth. Now explore it with touch. How does your food feel? Without naming the sensation, just experience touching your food. Touch it. Feel the ridges. Feel the texture. What does it feel like? How is it that your hands know to move the food directly to your lips, right? It's like we want to put it up to our nose. We want to put it up to our mouth. As you bring the food up to your mouth, now don't put it in your mouth yet. Notice what happens next. Just put it near your mouth. The mouth wants to receive the food, right? Nothing's going in, but it's like wanting to put it into the mouth. Who or what is doing the receiving? Is it your tongue? Observe what the tongue does with it. Stick it in your mouth. How does it get the food between the teeth? Feel it in your mouth. You know, it's amazing how skilled our tongue is, right? It's like it knows. It's a remarkable muscle that actually, receives the food and knows what to do with it. All right, so taste. You're all tasting it right now, right? So after becoming aware of the food in your mouth, bite slowly into it. Begin to chew it. Notice that the tongue decides which side of the mouth it's going to chew on. Give all your attention to your mouth and take a few bites. You can put another one in your mouth if you want, if you've already chewed it. And then afterward, just stop and feel what's happening. What's happening in your mouth? Is there an explosion of taste? Which taste buds are being stimulated? Express what's going on in your mind. What's the experience? Is the taste sour? Is it juicy? Is it salty? Is it bitter? As you continue to chew and taste, observe how the consistency changes. At a certain point, you're going to become aware of the texture of the food because the taste has mostly passed, right? And you're just feeling the texture. If the texture causes aversion, you may want to swallow it, like, oh, this is yucky, But keep it in your mouth. Keep experiencing. Nothing bad. I didn't give you anything bad. Now, as it's in your mouth, at the point when you want to swallow it, don't swallow it. Like that feeling of right before you want to swallow it, don't swallow it. Stay with that impatience, that impulse. And then observe what is involved in getting the food over to the place where it's going to be swallowed. How does it get to that point? When you detect the impulse to swallow, follow it down into the stomach. Feel the whole body and acknowledge that your body is now exactly one bite heavier. Feel it in your body. Pause for a moment or two. See if you can taste your breath in a similar way as you take a deep breath in. Can you feel that breath inside of you? Can you taste the breath inside of you? Bring the same quality of attention to the breath that you gave to seeing, feeling, smelling, and tasting the food. Just take your breath in. Sense it in the back of your throat. Experience that breath inside of you. And now just be silent at this moment. If you just did this experiment as we recommended, you now see, you can understand more of what meditation is. Because it's doing what we do all the time, except we're doing it with attention. Directed moment to moment, non-judgmental attention. That's what meditation is. Doing the same things we do all the time, but with that directed attention. So how was that experience for you? Good? Did you eat differently right now than you normally eat? Right? Using all our senses, appreciating the food, tasting it, smelling it, feeling it, being aware of it in our body. That's mindful eating. Did you like what I gave you, by the way? No, it wasn't dried apples. No. Actually, everything that I just gave you, they're superfoods. And what you thought was a dried apple is actually called yacon. Yacon is an Andean superfood. Okay, it comes from the Andean mountains. Those of you who had one that had lots of bumps, that was actually mulberries. And that's another superfood. It's a Turkish superfruit, mulberries. Those of you who had little red berries, those are goji berries. They're a Himalayan superfood. And those of you who had those little darling sour wrinkled ones, those are called golden berries, and that's another Andean superfruit. Those of you who had the small dark bitter guys, those are actually cacao beans, raw cacao beans. Did anyone get this one? Yeah, okay. You're going to have plenty of energy. I know, they're really bitter, but they're fabulous. That's what we make chocolate out of, actually. Chocolate. And so these are all great superfoods. I'll leave them for you guys to look at, but they're filled with vitamins, minerals, things that we don't normally get out of regular foods. And so I make trail mixes with this, and I just, they'll give you energy, they'll give you just wonderful results. So those are all superfoods. Yes? Yeah, I actually get those on Amazon. They have the best prices. Amazon.com. Yeah, and the company is called Navitas, Navitas, Navitas Naturals. They're organic superfoods. They're really great. Yes?
Now they have mulberry trees here.
Yes.
Same mulberry?
This is mulberries, I think, were Turkish, actually. Yeah, the mulberries, Turkish superfruit. So these came, there might be different trees, but it says mulberries are an excellent source of both iron and vitamin C, resveratrol, powerful antioxidant. Probably mulberry trees as well. So, this is a great example of just being aware of the food, really, using all our senses to be aware of the food. Even in our day, right, as we're doing normal, everyday things, using our senses to be aware of it. So then later when we do retrospection, we're that much more aware of it. You guys, when you do your retrospection tonight, you're going to remember this moment because you were aware. You used your senses. You experienced it. You really experienced it. That's how our day should be, experiencing it. Much of our day is just done mechanically, and we don't experience it. Then we get to our retrospection. You're like, wait, what did I do how did I get from there to, you don't even remember, right? Because it's so mechanical. A lot of times I'll drive home from work and I'll park the car. The next day I'll come to look for the car. I'm like, where the heck did I park the car? I looked to where I parked it like 2 days ago. I'm like, wait, I didn't park it there. Because I did it mechanically. So doing it, feeling it, being mindful in every aspect of our day, right? And like I said, this may be a lot. Some of you are like, I can't do that all day. Of course you can't. But you start with little experiences like we just did. So at least 3 times a day you could do it with food, right? Yeah, all of you can taste the other things later if you're curious, because you're all like, I want to taste that. I'll put them out for you to taste, okay? And you could do some more mindful experience. But really, that's how we should be trying to live our days. And so chewing, how is that chewing for you? Some of us, we're not even aware of how we chew and why we chew. But actually, eating begins with the act of chewing, right? Digestion begins when we chew. So chewing leads to smooth digestion, greater assimilation of nutrients, because it initiates the release of digestive enzymes and breaks down the food in our mouth. Did you feel the saliva starting in your mouth? Right? Did it start when you were smelling it? Did you feel that? Yeah, right? It's like sort of like squirts out of the back, like you can start feeling. You ever have you look at something and your mouth waters, right? So that's where the digestion is beginning right there. Carbohydrate digestion actually begins in the mouth with chewing. So chewing turns grains and other complex carbohydrates into satisfying sugars, and it makes oils, proteins, and minerals available for maximum absorption. So we need to chew our food well. A lot of people that take and they swallow, right? They chew like 3 times and swallow. You're not going to get the maximum absorption of the nutrients in your body, right? So chewing 20 to 30 times, they say 30 to 50. I tried that, 30 to 50. I could get to 30, and that was barely. So I don't know if you have better luck, but I was eating breakfast this morning too, and I was practicing it. And I'm like, okay. I had a organic egg with avocado and some sprouted bread. So I ate that, and I'm like chewing it. Okay, and I'm counting, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to teach them to count, so make sure I want to see how many times I do it. And I was like at 15, and I'm swallowing. I was like, oh, come on, you got to do this longer. So I kept doing it. So I realized I could do it till like 30, but I couldn't get past 30. I could not get past 30. So try it. They say 30 to 50 times. I don't know. Maybe egg and toast and avocado just don't go to 30. I don't know. Maybe steak would, but I just couldn't get it past 30. So try it and see what happens. But really, it did change the experience in my mouth. Like, I started tasting flavors that I wouldn't have tasted had I just chewed 10 or 15 times. The bread started changing. Like, it started getting more interesting flavor. So, like, just try. Experiment with your own body. So, actually, they say that whole carbohydrate foods, when they're chewed, they become even sweeter. So I must have been experiencing that bread becoming sweeter. So definitely try to be more conscious of your chewing. Yeah, it's hard. So how to chew properly. On slide 27, this is actually how we should chew properly. Okay? So every mouthful at least 30 times until it becomes liquid. Liquid. Do you get that? Liquid. How many times we swallow something is not even close to liquid? So liquid. Chewing breaks down the food and makes it easier for our stomach and the small intestine to digest it. And saliva actually assists in the digestion of the carbohydrates. Saliva makes our food more alkaline, which creates less gas. Okay, so gas is experienced in the stomach and intestine, but it's also caused by spleen imbalances. So if you're not chewing enough, you may be getting a lot more gas. Do you burp a lot? Do you have gas the other way a lot? Are you experiencing? It might be because you're not chewing your food properly. You're not breaking it down enough. Yes? Turkish. Huh? Oh, no, not Turkish. He's telling me Turkish people like to burp after their meal as a sign of a compliment. Okay. If you're under pressure at meals, take deep breaths, chew, and let the simple act of chewing relax you. Okay? Taking the time to chew, like you just experienced, will help to use all of your senses. You'll experience all the tastes and aromas that make up your meal. And this is what the French do. This is what the difference is. They really take their food and experience their food. I think we should all go to a French restaurant after this. Okay? So, chewing properly. That's another homework assignment. See how many times you can do it. Okay? So, here are some suggestions before eating. All right? I don't know about showering, but definitely wash your hands and face. Okay? Turn off the television, radio, and telephone. For some of you, this is going to be like, what? Turn my telephone off? Oh my goodness, what if I miss the call? Don't worry, you can call them back in 20 minutes. Okay? Shut it off. Be mindful. When you're meditating, would you have the phone on? No, right? It's going to disrupt you. Same with this. This experience should be like a meditation, to be conscious of what you're doing. Don't read. A lot of people, when they're, especially if they go and they're alone, they'll be reading the newspaper when they're eating. Okay? You can't do two things well. You can't experience the food and read what's going on in the daily news. You just can't do it. Find a clean, quiet place to eat. Make your table nice. Clean it. Don't have clutter all around you. Light a candle, or if you're going to play music, play something soft, like a classical piece or something. Stretch and breathe before your meal. Say a prayer. Right? Saying a prayer. When I sit down, most of the times, like I said, I feel really grateful. And I thank. It doesn't have to be out loud. It could be in your mind. Just being connected and saying thank you. I'm so grateful for the people that produce this food for me, for the fact that I could cook it in a way that's delightful for me and my family. Thank you, God, for making this available to me. Whatever are your words. Prayer is just speaking to God, to connecting to God. And make sure, align your posture and breathe. A lot of times we forget to breathe. We're eating and we don't even breathe. Like we're just eating, we don't really breathe and take it in. So just like we did that mindful experiment, try to keep that in mind when you're sitting down to eat. So this is called the 5 reflections on slide 29. 5 reflections or 5 remembrances. This is chanted before a meal in the Zen Buddhist tradition. It's called Gokan Noje, and I might be pronouncing that wrong, so forgive me. But Gokan Noje is the prayer, and this is the English translation of the prayer. First, let us reflect on our own work and the effort of those who have brought us this food. Second, let us be aware of the quality of our deeds as we receive this meal. Third, what is most essential is the practice of mindfulness, which helps us to transcend greed, anger, and delusion. Fourth, we appreciate this food, which sustains the good health of our body and mind. Fifth, in order to continue our practice for all beings, we accept this offering. Is that a beautiful prayer? It's really a lovely way to start your meal. Being mindful, thankful, thinking of others, and realizing, I love that last line, in order to continue our practice for all beings, we accept this offering. So that we can continue to help humanity. We accept this nourishment, right? We accept this offering. We accept this so that we can make our temple strong and continue the path, on the path. Now, you don't have to choose that prayer, but that prayer is available in the Gnostic prayer book. We included that in there. There are other prayers for mealtime in the book as well. So I encourage you, if you don't have your copy, this has a lot more prayers than the last version of the prayer book. So get yourself a copy. You don't need to use those prayers. You could use, like I said, speak from your heart. Prayer is connecting with our being. Prayer is being in the moment and speaking to our being. So whatever are your words, your being, that's good enough for your being, right? He knows what's in your heart. But just being aware, you being aware of what's in your heart is the key to prayer. So some suggestions during your meal. When you take a bite of food, put one bite in your mouth and then put your fork, your knife down, your spoon. It sounds easy, it's not. I don't know about you, but I usually hold the fork and the knife the whole time I'm eating. So to put it down is quite interesting. Put it down. And then after your bite, place your hands together while chewing. Because what that does is it makes you take your hands off the burger or the sandwich or whatever else you're trying to hold, and you just really become mindful of the act of chewing. Begin chewing and deep breathing. Breathe and chew. And just experience it, because that breath helps with the whole process. Right? Concentrate on what you're doing. Look at your food or something attractive, or close your eyes, partially or fully. Oh, when I taste something good, I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm just like closing my eyes and I'm really appreciating it. And I really just like instinctively my eyes close so that I could appreciate it even more. And vocalize cream. So what is cream? We all hear about vocalizing cream. And so what this does is when we vocalize, and it could be mental, it's not like you're eating and you're going cream. You're not doing this, okay? You're not chewing and vocalizing. It's in your mind. Cream in your mind, okay? And what this does is, food goes beyond our bodily nourishment, right? It influences all aspects of ourselves. Our mental, our spiritual, our emotional development. What we put in our body becomes us on many levels. Right? We know if we put things that don't serve our body, we'll get the effects. If we put good things in our body, we'll get good effects. So that's why it's very important to choose wisely what we put into our body, because it's going to affect us on all those different levels. And how we eat is important as well. So mentally vocalizing cream helps us to extract all of the energy of the food. Not just physically, but on all those different levels as well. Helps us to extract it. That way the energy won't only be felt in our physical body, but in our vital body, in our astral body, and our mental body as well. We're feeding all of those bodies. And when we eat, we should remember God and pronounce this mantra, so that the energy does nourish all of our bodies. And that's really the whole key of why we're doing this lecture series, is learning to feed ourselves and all of our bodies so that we can really be strong and do this work. So experiment with this. If you're not doing this already, try it. You are your own experiment. And after eating, a suggestion is to say thanks. Sit and talk after your meal. Just sit and chat a little bit. Take a light stroll. The Master Samael always took a walk after a meal. He said it helped his digestion. What I tend to do is I get on my elliptical because it's way too cold to be strolling right now. So I get on my elliptical and I'll do some, 20, 30 minutes of that. But make your meal not something that you're just rushing through every day. Because remember, you're feeding all of your bodies through this experience. So I want you to take a look at this food pyramid on slide 34. This may not look like any kind of food pyramid that you're used to seeing. We're used to seeing, the USDA food pyramid, and all they have on it is food, right? But on this one, you're going to notice that there's way more than just food. Okay, yes, we have our grains, our vegetables, our fruits, our oils, and our proteins. We also have added to this water. How many food pyramids that you know of have water on there? Right? Not too many. And you'll also notice that milk is not on here. Right? On the ordinary food pyramid, they're saying, you must drink this and this amount of milk and, to be strong. Well, if you listen to our milk lecture, you know that's not true. Unless you're getting raw milk, you probably shouldn't be drinking so much milk. But if we look at this, they do show us that we need our grains, our vegetables, right? How much proportionally. But it also shows, if you look around the red circle, it shows spirituality, career, physical activity, and relationships. Now, what this shows us is that food is not everything. Food is secondary food. What our primary foods are spirituality. How's our spiritual practice? How happy are we in the careers that we're in? How much physical activity are we getting? Are we getting enough for our body? What are the types of relationships that we have in our life? Are they fulfilling us? Do we have the love that we need? Do we have the friendships that nurture us? You know, think back when you were a child. Do you remember when you used to go out and play outside with your friends? Right? You'd be playing and having a great time, and your mom would say, come on, it's dinner time. You'd be like, no, Mom, 5 minutes, I don't want to go in yet, right? You weren't thinking like, oh, I want to go in and eat. You were thinking, I want to stay and play. Right? Or was I the only kid that ran around the streets doing that? No, right? You did too, right? You wanted to stay outside and play and enjoy yourselves. And food was just secondary. Yeah, I have to eat because, But the most important thing was the playtime. Right? That's because it fed you. It fed you on a different level. It fed your happiness, your well-being. It made you feel good. That's what we call primary food. This food pyramid that you see here came as a result of the school that I attended, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they really teach a holistic approach to nutrition. And when I saw this, it made so much sense to me because I said, yes, I understand that. I get that food is secondary. Yes, we have to eat well and we have to sustain our body, but if I'm miserable in my career and I have no spiritual practice and I hate the people in my life and I'm lazy and I get no exercise, it don't matter if I eat the best food in the world, I'm still going to be miserable. True or false? True. So that's why food, when we've been talking so much about choosing the right food, but we have to remember that's only part of the equation. We have to also take a look at our whole life. We're all here because there's a spiritual need in us, right? There's something calling us. There's something that pushes us to be here with like-minded people. That we need that connection. So we're all here because of that spiritual aspect. Now, are you doing what you need to fill that in your life? Do you feel satisfied there? This is a very important primary food. Same with our careers. A lot of us are in careers because we just happen to be in that job. We got that job. We stayed in that job. And okay, well, it pays my bills. Does it satisfy you? Maybe some of us don't have an option to change right now. But maybe we can try and do something different within the job that we're already in. Does that career fulfill you? Do you look forward to going to work? Do you enjoy the people that you work with? If you don't, your days are going to be miserable, right? 8 to 10 hours a day at something you hate is a long time. So if that's not feeding you, you need to look at your life and say, well, I need to make the most of this. I need to learn from this what I can, and then maybe look for something that's going to really feed you. Same with the relationships in your life. Are they nurturing to you? Are they good relationships? Is the person you're with somebody who you can grow with, live with, be happy with? Are your relationship with your children good? With your mother and your father, with your sisters, with your siblings? How are they? All of that is going to affect how you feel about your life. Same with your physical activity. If you get no physical activity, your body's going to eventually feel really crummy. And for those of you who don't like to do physical activity, I promise you one thing. In the beginning, it's hard to start, but after a while, your body will be asking you for it. It's like now if I don't exercise in a few days, my body's like, oh, like I have to like stretch and I want to move. My body's asking me to move. Doing something that you enjoy. Everybody has a different way of experiencing physical activity. Some of you may love to swim. Some may love to walk. Some like to go to the gym. Some don't like to go to the gym. Figure out what works for you. Some like to dance. But get something in your day. I always say, like, do at least 5 minutes. At least 5 minutes a day. That's like the bare minimum. At least move your body a little bit. You know, I think 20 to 30 minutes of physical activity a day, you'll feel great. I always feel better after I exercise. I never feel worse. Put it that way. I never get, I never stop exercising and feel, wow, that was just terrible. I don't feel good. I always feel better. The endorphins kick in and I'm like, woo, wow, I feel great. Try it. In the beginning it'll be hard, and then eventually your body will love it. So this is what I mean by, primary and secondary foods. Your primary foods are that which really feed your soul, your life. You know when you first fall in love and you're like on cloud 9? Oh my God, he's so fabulous, and we have so much in common, and he's the best, and I love him, and I'll be with him forever, right? You get into that phase, and you don't even think about eating, right? You don't even think about eating. Food is like, I don't even need to eat. I just live on love. Right? Anybody ever experienced that one? Yes? No. Oh, goodness. Okay. We'll have to work on that. But the truth is, when you get into that identified, or if you're doing a project that you love, maybe you're painting or you're doing some fun project, you don't think about eating. Eating becomes secondary. That what you're doing is more important. That's what I mean, finding meaningful things in your life that not only about food feeding you, but experiences feeding you. Having a well-rounded life, right? It's a circle. How happy are you in all these aspects? And if you're not, meditating on it, working on it, figuring out how to make your life feel whole. I really like slide number 35 because it teaches us to get slow. And what it means by getting slow is we live a really fast-paced life, most of us. Especially if you live in New York, you are living a really fast-paced life. And our life is just like flying by. And if we're not mindful of what we're doing, we really the years just keep flying by quicker and quicker. So a few suggestions on how to get slow and just slow down a little. Get into the slow lane, they say, right? We're always trying to be in the fast lane. Get into the slow lane. Try some of these suggestions. Leave your watch on the bedside table. I know some people cannot leave without their watches. I haven't worn a watch in like 25 years. I can't. I don't like them. But some people, they have to have their watch or they feel naked, right? So some people are constantly looking at the time. Try leaving maybe your watch at home one day, or not looking at your clock so often, your watch so often. Now this is a big one. Check email only twice a day. I don't know about you, but I check my email about 25 times a day. Okay? At work, constantly checking emails. At home, then I check my emails. Pop-ups come up and tell me I have an email. It's like this life of instant gratification, and we're so identified with this type of, virtual living that I think too many of us are way too identified. Take the scenic route. Okay, how many of us try to get from point A to point B the quickest way? We don't care what's in between. We don't want to see the pretty trees. We just want to get there. Do you ever take the scenic route? Do you ever take the way, there's the highway and then there are the side roads? Do you ever take the side roads? I find the best adventures when I do that. I just love that. Sometimes too adventurous. I remember one time we were in Hawaii, and I took my GPS with me to Hawaii because I thought that was a great idea. We'll drive around, we're renting a car. GPS said, okay, we're going to go to this beach this way. And it looked like a nice scenic route. I said, let's do it. We went, and it wound up being like this off-road dirt riding, whatever you call, with the big tire kind of cars. And I had like this Jeep or something, and the roads were literally like this, like up and down and up and down. And at one point, my husband and I are leaning over the car like this. And I thought for sure that we were going over. And that's when I realized the scenic route may be a little too scenic. It was fun, though, and it was memorable. And it took a different way back. But it was definitely memorable and exciting. But the point was, it was fun, you know? After the fright and after the fear, it was fun. But taking that sometimes will lead to the greatest adventures. So, you know, doing that, enjoying your day a little bit more, you know, or lighting candles before you start to cook dinner or on your table. You know, these are all just some suggestions. And I think they could really help to slow you down. Setting aside one night a week for yourself. All for yourself. One night a week just for yourself. How many of you do that? A lot of us, we feel obligated to others or to work or to something else, and we don't give ourselves that time. How many of us get into the bubble bath? My favorite thing is a bubble bath and some opera and a cup of tea. That's how you slow down, okay? For me. For you, that might be like, oh, God, that sounds so boring. All right? But you've got to figure out what works for you. Slowing it down a little bit. This one's a good one, too. Sit for a moment with your eyes closed when you start your computer. How many of us start working and then that's it? We're just there the whole time. Another thing that I've started that's really been helpful to me is at work, at lunchtime. Instead of going somewhere, I close the door, I shut the lights, I put some meditation music on, and I meditate. That has been fabulous. Love that. Even the phone will start ringing, and I just look at it as one of my thoughts. I'm like, oh, there's the sound of a, you know, and I just observe it, and I don't let it distract me, and it really makes me feel great. You know, some of us say we have no time. That's baloney. There's time. It's what we do with our time. We have enough time to watch that TV show for 2 hours or an hour every week. We have enough time to watch the football game. We have enough time to sit on the computer and play video games. We have enough time to, you know, we have the time. It's how we're using the time. Everybody here admit they have at least a half hour in the day where they could do something for themselves? Yes? Okay, so what are you doing with that half hour? I love this. Always jump at the chance to play with the child. Children really are in the present. They remind you of the present. They're in the present. They're not thinking, oh, 10 years from now, I should have, you know, this much money saved up for my retirement. They're not thinking of that, right? They're thinking about, oh, play, car, fun, cat, right? That's what they're thinking. So kids really keep us in the present. If you have a chance, play with the child. And, you know, never pack your schedule so that there's no room for a short walk. If we make our schedules so tight, we're going to get wound up so tight. We should have always some time to just let loose a little bit for ourselves. I like that. Take a left where you generally take a right. Who knows where it'll lead you? Right? So for those of you who are at the class, I did make copies of this for you, so you do have these to take home. And just try something, maybe one thing this week, and see how it changes your day. Okay? So all of these are suggestions for you, obviously. Everything that we talk about here really has to be experimented and practiced. Nothing that you will learn here, you know, can be given to you and automatically yours. You have to make it yours. So if something rang true for you today, if something that you heard, you said, wow, I could really use that, try it. Because that's the only way you're going to know if it works for you. And if that doesn't work, try something else. But you've got to experiment. You've got to do it. All of this work. Some great resources for this lecture that you should know about. I also made this copy for you guys here, all the resources. Like I said, if you didn't listen to the other series of lectures, gnosticradio.org. There's a good book called The Portion Teller that really talks about what's going on with all these portion sizes. To find a natural food co-op, there's a good link right there for you, coopdirectory.org. Some health food, natural foods websites for you. And also a couple of other good things that you should be watching. The one on the left is actually the book. It's called Fast Food Nation. If you're interested, after watching Super Size Me, this is another good movie to watch. Fast Food Nation was a book. It's the dark side of the all-American meal. And this is actually fictitious, but it really, they made a movie about the book, which is on the right. And it really shows what's going on in the corporate fast food world. And it's fictitious, but it's a good movie to watch because it'll really teach you what's happening out there. And also on slide 38, there's some great websites that I included for you. Some national natural food restaurants and where you can find them. So like organic restaurants around the country, a vegetarian, organic and healthy restaurant directory, restaurants that support local farmers, and online directory of family farms, restaurants, and markets. Also a great guidebook is The Traveler's Guide to Eating Healthy. And another one is a comprehensive guide to over 2,500 vegetarian eateries and a guide to natural food restaurants in the U.S. and Canada. You know, these are all great options because if you are going to go out to eat, why not go out to eat where you have better options? Doesn't that make sense? You're going to spend money on something that actually is good for you. So here you can find a bunch of resources. Get out there, experiment, have fun, right? Isn't that what life is somewhat about? I think so, and getting to know yourself better, right? So if there are any questions, I'll happily take them now. Yes?
One thing I've noticed about the mindful eating is depending on what you're doing is where you eat junk food. Like if you I can't get a big bag of potato chips at a dinner table and eat the whole bag. Or if I'm watching TV, I'll go through the whole bag of potato chips and not think about it.
Yeah.
I can't lay it on a plate and say, okay, I'm going to eat this.
Yeah, that would seem absurd, wouldn't it? Yeah, the comment is about, you know, mindful eating, and it's actually what you're doing that makes you not mindful of eating, right? Eating a bag of chips in front of the TV is very easy, but you wouldn't put a bag of chips at the dinner table and sit there and eat it if there was no TV on. And that's the whole point. Shut off the TV. Don't eat when you're watching TV, because then you become mindless, right?
And then what you eat while you're doing other activities.
Exactly. Right.
You wouldn't do it any time you eat that bag of chips, except only when you're
right. Exactly. And that's why we suggest when you're eating, do not have TV on, don't have distractions, don't be doing other things, because it becomes secondary, right? Eating is just, then you're just shoving it in your mouth and you're not even realizing what you're doing to your body. Exactly. Go ahead. Yes?
Is there something objectively wrong with large portions, or is it just the quantity that it encourages you to eat? For instance, with my meals, I eat like a paltry breakfast and lunch, but then I have a Jagundo-sized dinner. So even like if you average it out, it probably equals out to like 3 full meals a day. But it's just like it's weighted towards one meal.
Yeah.
There's something. Is this going to kill me?
I don't know what's going to kill you. But yeah, the question is about if you're eating a small breakfast, lunch, but a huge dinner, is that good for you? You know, every person is going to have a different formula that works for them. Some people like that. Some people like some people like to start the day with a huge breakfast and then have smaller meals. I heard this saying that says, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. A lot of people think the opposite is true. It's better if you start your day eating more and eat less as the day progresses. But like I said, you've got to figure out what works for you. That wouldn't work for me. I have to have like a okay-sized breakfast, a bigger lunch, and a smaller dinner for me. I know for me that works. If I eat a lot at a meal, I don't feel good. Like, I literally do not feel good. I feel stuffed. And I feel bloated, and I feel yucky. You know when you overeat, how do you feel? miserable, right? It's like too much. When you finish eating that dinner, do you feel stuffed and overfed? Okay. You don't know. All right. Good. See, that's the typical answer. Most people don't even observe what they feel. So this week, I'd like you to observe, how do you feel after those big meals? How does your stomach feel? How does it feel when when you're moving? Does it feel good in your body? How do you feel when you go to sleep after a meal like that? Does it have any reactions? Like, observe the reactions of your body after the meal. Okay, and jot them down, and we'll talk about it next time. Any other questions? Questions back there?
They are thinking.
Oh, they're thinking. Okay, that's good. Thinking is good. Yes.
Is there any reason why we eat certain types of food during a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner? Like, is it better to actually get oatmeal and eggs in the morning, or is it just like a trend?
Yeah, I think that's just probably people coming up with best ideas for meals. But I sometimes will have soup for breakfast. You know what I mean? I rather listen to my body. I think it's easy to have oatmeal for breakfast, so maybe that's why. But you've got to listen to your body and eat what your body wants. But that comes in time. You know, like Matt just said, he didn't even know what his reaction was. So how's he going to listen to his body when he doesn't even observe the reaction? The more and more in tune you become, the more you'll know what your body wants. And the way that you know you had what your body wants is after the meal, did it hit the spot? You know what I mean? Did it hit the spot? If it didn't hit the spot, then you're not eating the right food. After your meal, you should feel satisfied, like, oh, that was good. Like, that fed me. I feel good. Do you feel that after your meal? Or you're like, oh, okay, that was all right. That wasn't great. That was, like, did it hit the spot or didn't it? You should feel good after your meal. You shouldn't feel like, oh, God, I can't move. Whew, unbutton those buttons. Once you start unbuttoning buttons, that means you ate too much or your pants are way too tight. Okay? But you need to feel good. A meal should not make you feel yucky and bloated. It should make you feel good, energized. So you have to ask yourself that.
Is it okay to have multivitamins?
Is it okay to take multivitamins? I think that if you eat well, you don't need a multivitamin. If you do not eat well, then you need a multivitamin. Most people, if they're eating McDonald's and, that's fast food and they're not eating well, they probably need their multivitamins. But if you're eating like we showed with the vegetables, half a plate of vegetables, and you're trying to take care of your body, you don't really need synthetic vitamins.
So when we are eating with mindfulness and using the mantra cream, does the food nurture our consciousness as well?
Yes, it definitely nurtures all of our consciousness, our body, our other bodies. It nurtures us, being mindful of it. We're sending that energy towards our, being conscious in the moment and feeding our consciousness as well. I think your turn. Yes.
Where does juicing fall into this in terms of servings? Does it take the place of a meal because it takes so many fruits and vegetables to make 1 cup of juice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Juicing, where does it come into this? The best juicing option that you can do for yourself is to juice with all the fiber in it. Okay, because that way you're not going to drink as much juice. Okay, so for example, when you're juicing, you're getting rid of all the fiber, right? You're throwing out the fiber and you're just drinking the juice, which is great. I mean, fresh live juices are great, but what it's lacking is the fiber. And so when you, for example, take a Vitamix, right, or a Blendtec blender, these blenders, what they do is you put it in there and it blends it, makes it into a juice, but doesn't take out the fiber. Then you drink the juice and you're getting all the benefits of the vegetable because you're getting the fiber in there as well. And what the fiber does is very important. The reason there's fiber in fruits and vegetables is because that allows us to control the blood sugar in our blood. If you're just drinking a juice with no fiber, you drink it and your blood sugar level is going to spike real high and then go down. What fiber does is it because of all that fiber, it spreads out the blood sugar evenly in our blood because of that fiber in it. So it's actually better. If you're into fresh juices, I would highly recommend, not just drinking juices that are made in a juicer, but using the whole fruit or vegetable. So when I make my smoothies, I put the whole apple, carrot, the strawberry, and I don't take any of the fiber out. I drink it. Let me tell you, you're going to drink a lot less of that than you are of just a juice without the fiber, because it's filling. Because you're eating literally a carrot, an apple and spinach, and you do not feel like having 2 glasses of that, because your stomach, you're like, whew, that was full. I'm full. So that you're getting more nutrition that way. So I would really recommend not doing only that one way. Once in a while doing a juice, but having the whole vegetable, the whole fruit. That way it really benefits your whole body.
What is the definition of superfood exactly? And are acai berries, which I have access to, truly a superfood, or is that just marketing?
What are superfoods exactly? Superfoods are foods that have more nutrition in a smaller amount. They're like potent. You know what I mean? They're like these goji berries, right? Goji berries, they have so much nutrition and vitamins, so they're giving us more energy for the small. You see how small they are, right? They're tiny. These little berries, you don't need to eat a lot of them in order to get a good effect. I mean, look at these things. They're tiny. So these berries, for the serving that they give, they're giving us a greater amount of nutrition, a greater amount of, vitamins and minerals. So they're considered superfoods. Okay? The acai berry, I believe, I haven't really experimented with it. I'm going to do a whole lecture on superfoods. So as I investigate more on that one, I'll get back to you guys on that. I don't want to state anything that I'm not 100% sure about right now. But including superfoods in your diet is a fabulous way of just giving yourself like a burst of energy. So in my smoothies that I make, I throw these in there. In my trail mixes that I make, I mix them with some raw nuts. So those are great ways. In my oatmeal, I'll put them in my oatmeal when I eat. So these are just really like little power, shoots of like energy, like raw chocolate. Love making raw chocolate. And I use, raw cacao beans or raw cacao powder, and I don't buy chocolate anymore. I think the chocolate in the stores tastes gross. Like, to me, I can't appreciate it anymore because raw chocolate tastes so much better. Like, now I'm just like, I just love my raw chocolate. So I grind these beans up into a fine powder, or I just buy the powder already ground, and then, I mix it with some honey, some bee pollen, some cacao butter, or coconut butter, and I put everything in my Vitamix. That's how I found the easiest way to make chocolate, by the way. Throw everything in the Vitamix and pour it into a mold, and it's ready. That's how easy it is. I put some goji berries in there, so you have like a healthy treat, and it's delicious. So incorporating foods like this, you're just getting more of the vitamin instead of taking supplements. It's better to eat your supplements, meaning eat good foods, than to have to take synthetic supplements. But like I said, if your diet is really poor, you may need it.
What do you know about adaptogenic herbs?
What do I know about adaptogenic herbs? Not much. I'll have to look into that.
Yes. How important is to eat with the rhythms of nature to keep up with the
seasons?
natural metabolism of balance?
Fabulous question. How important is it to eat with the seasons? That's what you're basically asking,
Not
right?
with the season, but with the rhythm of nature, like the doshas, morning, midday, and night. The tattvas.
Right. Well, obviously, if you can get that into it, it'd be great because you're eating with the rhythm of nature, right? That's obviously, But before we can get there, I think we have to understand why is that even important, right? Most people don't even know how to eat, let alone eat with the doshas, right? So starting to eat with the rhythm of nature, obviously that's optimum. But not everybody can eat between this hour and this hour, this food, and this hour and this, not everybody can do that. that would be the optimum. That's like, if you could do that, great. You know, you're going to obviously get the most food, the most energy, the most vitamins if you're eating in that rhythm. Same with the rhythm of the seasons. Really, the best way to eat is seasonally. Right? You're bringing it even down to the daily. So to eat seasonally, to eat daily, to eat with the rhythm of nature is the optimum best thing we could do for our body. Right? So I think little by little, maybe we'll do a whole lecture on that, and that'll be our goal. Let's get them to stop going to Burger King and McDonald's first, okay? Then we'll get there. Yeah. Well, thank you for your attention, and like I said, I hope just try something new for yourself. You know, little by little you can make changes. Don't expect to make them all overnight. Little by little we can make our temple a better place to exist within. Okay, so the next time I hope to bring you a lecture on, I've been promising water. I think we need to do water. Yeah, so I think water will be our next big lecture. So have a great day. Enjoy the superfoods that I'll set forth before you, and eat mindfully. Thank you.
The presentation of this lecture was made possible by donations from listeners like you. Help Gnostic Radio to help others. Make a donation by visiting gnosticradio.org. For questions and deeper understanding of this lecture, we invite you to explore the wide variety of resources available on our websites. Thank you for your support. May all beings be happy.